Welcome. Well, you are at home with Jim and Joy, and we want to welcome you to a very special Thanksgiving show where we are celebrating Thanksgiving in adversity. Can it be done? Yeah. Yes, it can. And what does that mean? We all have all sorts of adversity, trials and sufferings that come into our lives, but we still have so much more to be thankful for. Well, you are an important part of our EWTN family, and we would love to hear from you. What are you thankful for this Thanksgiving? What we would love for you to do is just send us an email, jimandjoy@ewtn.com, where we would know exactly what you're thankful for.
Yeah. And Joy, even before the show, we've asked some of the fans of EWTN, hey, share with us. What does Thanksgiving mean to you? And it's been beautiful just to read your mailings. And you speak about being part of this family. And we thank you for inviting us into your home. We take that very seriously. And from your mailings, we hear of joys, we hear of sorrows. And Thanksgiving could be a time of great feasting in so many ways, but it could be a time of pain, a time of loneliness. Many of you have lost loved ones, and you're sharing about that in your mailings. But yet there's a community there that you're a part of, your family and your friends. Thanksgiving is a time for our nation here in America in particular. If you look and study the history of it, it's a time of saying thank you, not just to one another, but to God Almighty. You read Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, the Pilgrims, and there is a holy fear and reverence of God. We need that in America, especially at this time. And we're called during the season of Thanksgiving to pray for our nation, to pray for the nations of the world, to pray for our President, Barack Obama, to pray for President-elect Donald Trump, and to pray that our leadership would be God-fearing people, and that our nation would be governed by just laws, especially for the preborn, and that we, the people, would be good citizens. So this is a time to pray, to have faith, to believe, to bind up the wounds that divide us, as President-elect Donald Trump said, as Abraham Lincoln said as well. It's time to bind up divisions. During the Civil War, he declared Thanksgiving an official day. So may God heal our country, our homes, and bring renewal to the church.
Well, and some of the things that we are thankful for, we're thankful for our grandchildren.
That's
all
right.
Those beautiful grandchildren that we have. And our daughter Rebecca, one of our twins,
Yes.
recently birthed our 16th grandchild. His name is Josiah Gabriel Wright, and he was 11 pounds and 4 ounces. Yeah. Not a C-section birth.
Yeah.
She delivered this baby, and he is ginormous. He's just huge. He's so beautiful.
He's so beautiful.
And so we are thankful for all of their unique and very special ways and everything that they bring to our families and how they enhance our love, our life. And when you truly see their precious faces, you do see the face of God.
So we're going to be sharing with Peter and Sharon Gagnon and their 7 children. Hopefully they'll come up at the concluding segment of our show. Wonderful people, the president of programming and production here at EWTN. What does that mean? It means he's involved with everything. If you remember our first show, we had a different table here.
That's right.
And we thought it was a great table, but Peter came down and said, looking at the table, and there was no more table after that.
That's right.
So Peter's very involved
left.
with everything. And I love the table that we have, so he's got a good eye.
He was seeing something we didn't see.
But the Gagnons have great joys and sorrows as well. They've overcome through adversity. They're going to share their story. It's going to be a great encouragement to you and to your family. They're a great Catholic family. So don't go away. We'll be right back. A lot more to come. Blessed Thanksgiving.
Welcome back. Well, today we are celebrating Thanksgiving.
Amen.
What are you thankful for? Let us know. Just send us an email at jimandjoy@ewtn.com with the blessings that God has given you. You know, some people have already sent in what they're thankful for, and this is what one person wrote. Thanksgiving to me means family, and I'm so grateful for the love of that my family gives me every day. It's more than turkey and all the fixings. It's being thankful for the love of God, for the gift of the Catholic faith, and EWTN.
Amen.
And that is from Linda.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for EWTN. I'm thankful for all the preaching that goes on here. I'm thankful for all the teaching, all the catechetical training that happens. I'm thankful for Mother Angelica. I'm thankful for the staff. I'm thankful for our audio crew. I have so much to be
You're just
thankful
full of
for.
Thanksgiving,
I'm full
aren't
of
you?
thanks. I'm ever flowing with thankfulness. But right now, I'm thankful for Peter and Sharon Gagnon.
Beautiful couple.
We want to welcome the both of you to At Home with Jim and Joy. But what we want now, people, they've probably seen your name, Peter, I don't know, 1,000 million
He's
times.
into everything. His
I
name's
mean,
so
going through the script as everything goes through, right? There's Peter Gagnon. Oh gosh, so there he is again. There he is again. But who is Peter? Where did he come from, right? And how did you meet this beautiful bride of yours, Sharon? So why don't you tell our family at home a little bit about yourselves? You were born and raised, what kind of families you came from, and then the two of you coming together in your beautiful courtship.
Well, I'm originally from Maine, so I'm a transplant here at Birmingham. The youngest of 6 boys.
Wow.
My oldest brother's a priest, a missionary priest in Mexico. Blessed with just tremendous faith-filled parents who raised us in the faith and always guided us. The sacraments were very important to our family. Sharing together as a family, the family meals, all of that. Yeah. Although my brother went off to seminary early, you know, so but we always stayed close, and we still, as much as possible, try to keep in touch with him. My folks are still alive; they're still in Maine, and 3 brothers in Maine as well who are still there.
You're the youngest of 6?
So I'm the youngest of 6
No wonder
boys,
why you're so tough. I can.
Yeah, I tell you, growing up with 5 older brothers, it teaches you how to work, especially at the dinner table, how to get elbow them out of the way to get some of the meals. So
what do people do in Maine for fun?
We ice fish is one of the things we do. So and we still go up there every couple of years. The brothers get together, and my brother has a cabin up there, and we ice fish.
Never
and it's just
done
beautiful.
That. So you can actually make a hole in the ice and you don't fall in?
Yeah. I tell people, for people who have never gone there, it's like fishing in a parking lot. You know, so you're standing there with a hole when you're fishing. So, but it's beautiful. And my brothers are all faith-filled. We'll be out there, 6 guys on the ice, and we're praying the rosary together, and it's really great. So, but I graduated from college in '92, and so I was looking to go on to graduate school. My second oldest from me, Gary, had just applied and gotten a job at EWTN. Right. We had launched our radio network in December of '92, and so he had come down here, and I was going to be going to graduate school at Michigan State, and he said, why don't you come hang out for the summer? And so I did. I came down south, and actually really fell in love with Birmingham. Applied, got a job here at EWTN, and it was I decided maybe graduate school wasn't the right place for me at the time, and so I've been with the network ever since then. Since
what was the year
93.
that you came?
93. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Wow.
And was very fortunate and blessed to be able to work with Mother Angelica and just with Michael Warsaw and the guidance of Doug over all these years. So I've did multiple positions over the years and ended up with where I am now. I was working at EWTN when Sharon and I met. It was actually through another co-worker at EWTN who ended up going to be a youth minister at a local parish. And he said, hey, there are some adults who are working with the youth. You might want to come and help out as well. Yeah. So I did, and Sharon and I met. And it was, I don't know, love at first sight almost.
Yeah. He told me he loved me the very first day.
Wow. Although she was driving off in a car, and I said it as a joke. And I was with my friend, he goes, what do you think about that Sharon? And I said, I love you. And she's driving off as a joke. So I can always say I told her I loved her the first time I met her.
I told
Yeah.
Joy that I loved her early
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
and Joy was really great. She goes, "You love me. You don't even know me." Like that. It was like,
That's
"Oh
what I
boy,
said.
this girl is
Yeah.
really sharp." You know what I mean? But I love you. I love you.
Yeah.
But I really did,
Yeah.
and it worked out.
But so anyway, that's a little bit of our story. We got married in '98.
Yep.
And of October, and so I'll let Sharon tell a little bit
How
about
about your family?
story,
Where are you from?
your background.
Well, I'm a little bit of a transplant kind of here and there. My dad's from Georgia and my mom's from California, so we kind of, they met in California and started with my 2 older sisters. I'm the youngest of 3, so we're both the babies of the family.
Yeah, that's unusual for
Yeah.
the 2 youngest to get married.
But we appreciate each other's,
Yeah.
babiness, I guess.
Or spoiledness.
That is true. That is true. Our siblings definitely have taken good care of us. So we've lived in Georgia and California. We kind of did 3 or 4 moves kind of back and forth when I was younger. Grew up mainly in California, the parts I can remember. And then we moved to Georgia when I started middle school. And then my dad's job, he worked for the telephone companies back when the 80s, when everybody was getting, they were all merging and all that stuff. And so they then shifted my dad and moved him to Alabama. And I thought, Alabama? I was like, are you serious? I was like, what's in Alabama? But I can't believe that Birmingham is in Alabama. It's just the most amazing town everywhere. I mean, anywhere. We've gone to a lot of places and lived a lot of places, and I love Birmingham. It's fantastic. But so I went to the University of Alabama because my dad said you got to go to college in Alabama. So I picked that one and had a wonderful time. But when I was a senior, my parents were moved to Texas. And so I knew that, we weren't going to stay in Texas or anything like that. So I actually found a job here in Birmingham, but I was all alone. Both of my sisters had stayed in Georgia in the Atlanta area because they were finishing up college and whatnot. And so I was kind of here all by myself. And I remember thinking I loved my youth group growing up, and I've always, loved the faith and wanted to be, close to it. And I thought, why don't I find a parish here that, has an active youth group or whatever. And so I joined one of the parishes here and got involved with their youth group. And like Peter said, one of the producers, I think he was, came to help out with that. And then he brought Peter. And it was a great,
Like a match made in heaven.
it was a beautiful
so
thing.
beautiful.
And around that same time, I was really kind of searching for more for my faith. I really wanted to deepen my faith, and unfortunately, grew up not really being strongly catechized, but knew there was more and wanted to know more. And so he introduced me to the prayer group that he was part of. That was just amazing and fantastic. And so just totally, got me on fire again about my faith, and just being able to be around young adults who, wanted to go to adoration. We would go to adoration before we would go on our dates, or our dates would encompass going to mass and then going out to a movie or something. I mean, just having our faith be part of who we are as a couple was just amazing to me. It just felt so perfect.
How many years are you married, and how many children has God blessed you all with?
We have been married for 18 years, and so and we have been blessed with 7. Our first 6 are about 10 years apart. So we had a lot of exciting times there and a lot of busy moments and whatnot. And
You don't know if it's night or day.
no, you don't. You just kind of keep
You just keep
chugging,
going.
and then thankfully there's a 7-year gap between our 6th and our 7th. Our little Emma was just born 5 weeks ago.
5 weeks ago.
And so there's 7 years between her and the youngest, and so we had a lot of exciting moments during those 7 years as well.
Well, your children are just absolutely beautiful, like the both of you, and you have a marvelous life. So you were going along, you got married, and how soon thereafter did you start having children?
Oh, well, we got married in October, and Nathan was born the next September. So
Yeah.
it
So
was,
it
he
really
was not a
became a
honeymoon
family.
baby, but
Right.
Yeah, but
quickly
shortly
thereafter.
So you're busy, you're working at EWTN,
Yeah.
you're a homemaker for the most part.
yeah, I
Yeah.
quit my job when Nathan was born.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we decided that it would be best if Sharon stayed home with
Yeah.
with our child. So, and basically every 2 years we had a child, and we homeschooled.
And she
or she
homeschooled.
homeschooled.
Yeah.
So I said,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm the principal, and she does
Right.
everything
Yes.
else.
He's an excellent principal. He is an excellent principal.
But we're very blessed because Sharon does a fantastic job with that.
So you're
and-
blessed.
and
You
our
love
children.
one another. You're married.
yeah.
You're in the church. You work in the church. The church
Yeah.
is working you. The sacraments are working you. And then we have this encounter with
Yeah.
cancer,
Yeah,
with illness
so-
in your life. When did that take place? How many children? How did this come
Yeah.
to pass? How did you
Yeah.
find out? Because we're
Yeah.
thankful through adversity. That's the
Yeah.
theme
Oh,
of what
yeah.
we're sharing.
So we, on July 1st of 2011, I was, just before that, I'd gone on a few trips for the network, and I was just feeling a little bit tired. It wasn't anything,
Yeah.
extraordinary there. And so it was like, and then I
I kept
had,
telling him it's because we had 6 kids.
it-
He was like,
and,
we have
you
6
know,
kids.
and,
Well,
you
that
know,
was
you have
right,
6
yeah.
kids and
Yeah,
you're 40
yeah.
years old,
Right.
and,
Yeah.
so, and our oldest was 11 at the time, and Nathan. And so, and then I had some things with bleeding of the gums and stuff. And so my dentist said, I should just go get a checkup. So I went, and it was actually, I went and got a checkup that afternoon
We met
to
at
the
the store.
doctor. And I called Sharon and said, yeah, I'm not going to go back to work. So why don't we meet? And she was out shopping. I met her. We were out shopping together. It was a nice little afternoon. And we went back home, and I said she had to make one more shopping run. So I said, oh, okay, I'll stay home with the kids. And then I just got a call from the doctor saying, I just got your blood work. You need to go to the emergency room immediately. We think you have leukemia.
Oh my God. He told you right on the
Yeah,
phone?
on the phone. He did. So I was like, wow.
Oh my
wow,
gosh.
And so I called Sharon immediately, and I said, just leave the buggy. You need to come home right away. This is what they said, And you immediately start, the first thing I was like, leukemia, well, at least it's not cancer. But then you start thinking, wait,
That is
wait, no, that is cancer. Yeah, So, so Sharon came home. Sharon called a friend on the way
Yeah.
home, kind of,
Oh my gosh.
can you please come over
Well,
and watch
we
the
needed a
kids?
babysitter.
Yeah.
You had to have
Yeah.
a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we drove to the emergency room, and there, they basically said, yes, we redid your blood work, and your
Yeah.
levels are just so, your white blood count is so high, and
Yeah.
your other stuff is so low. That's indicative
Right.
of leukemia. They don't know for sure until they do the bone marrow biopsy, but chances are there. And they said, well, you'll be in hospital for 30 days minimum, and then you'll go through additional chemo after that. And so, we're sitting there in hospital, and we just said, okay, this is what.
What a life
Yep.
Yeah.
world changer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And for myself, I immediately just thought of, okay, my children, what does this mean for them? What does this mean for Sharon? You don't know what the future is going to hold, and if Sharon's going to be a single mom with 6 kids, you think about that. But we just said, we've always trusted in God. Just a little side story. A couple years earlier, she had we were on a trip to Maine to visit the family for my parents' anniversary, and Sharon had extreme stomach pains during that time. We go to
I just thought I had the
we go to
flu.
the doctor there, and they said, "Oh, you pulled a muscle because you were
Yeah.
throwing up. You were sick." And we're there for like 4 days. We come home. She still has pains. We go to our doctor. They said, "Your appendix burst."
Yeah.
And
I
so
You
started
got
to
a high
become
pain
septic.
tolerance.
yeah,
there.
she
Well, she's
believe me,
got
she is
6
tough.
kids by then, right?
She's
She
tough.
does.
We did-
So,
Yeah.
but so anyway, and through that, it was like
Gosh.
when the doctors, because she got a peritonitis, she got, the doctors then were saying you could have passed away. But we said, we've always trusted in God.
Right.
We're going to trust with Him this path that He's giving us now. What are we going to do in this path? So we're gonna trust in you, God. We're going to give our lives over to you, and we're just going to take one step at a time. Let's see what they tell us tonight. So tonight
Right.
we're getting into the hospital room. Let's see what happens tonight. I know Sharon that night had to go home and tell the kids, and she wants to stay with me in the hospital, but I said, you got to go home. And so I don't know if you want to tell when you went home.
Well, I mean, it was a challenging experience. I mean, the 3 oldest were, Nathan was 11 and a half, and so Zachary was 9
And
and a
you're
half.
there
and
alone
Grace
telling
was,
them this?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, the 3 youngest had already been put to sleep. The babysitter had done that. And so when I came home, I, had to sit them down and explain it in a way that wasn't fearful because, like Peter said, we trust. I mean, so it was scary, but we shouldn't have been afraid. You know, we needed to be focused on that God was going to take care of us, and that this was the path that He had allowed for us at this moment. And, you know, and I think they understood that there was going to be something big happening in our family at that moment. Obviously, I don't know if they grasped the depth of what it would be, but they, you know, our children then and now are just completely amazing to me. I mean, they are so faith-filled and generous, and they have a servant's heart, and you
They're
know,
like their parents.
well,
their mom.
I think they're way better. But you know, they understood that the focus then needed to be on Dad, and you know, sadly enough, not on the 6 children from 11 to 1 who were at home. You know, and you know, I explained to them that we needed to be, you know, there to help Daddy, and Mommy was going to be gone, because all we understood at that moment, that first night, was that he was supposed to be in there like a minimum of 30 days. Like we just went, and all of a sudden Daddy's not coming home for a month. And
Are you going to live past 30 days?
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
you,
That's
what is the prognosis? What do you know?
yeah,
you
there
really
was a
don't know.
lot.
Yeah.
So
And-
we went. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
so we're in the hospital at the time, and we had just great doctors.
You're in the
right?
hospital locally?
Locally,
Yeah.
at UAB,
Okay.
and it was over the 4th of July holiday too. So it was July 1st when I was, you know, in there, and even in the first 2 days, I had because your red blood is so low, your platelets so low, I immediately started getting transfusions. I had a severe reaction to a transfusion and got something called trolley, where it affects your oxygen levels and everything. So
at 3 o'clock in the morning, he calls and goes, "Don't worry." That's never a good conversation when you start it off that way.
I'm already worried, yeah.
Right, and so he's like, "Don't worry, they're just moving me to the intensive care."
I see.
He goes, "But it's okay." I'm like,
yeah.
"Okay," you know. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Great," and so I immediately called his brother Gary, who's here in town, and Gary brought me over to the hospital. And at that moment, Gary and I decided that Peter was not to be left alone at all, and
So I spent, it was nice. I was able to watch the fireworks from my
We had a
window
great
there.
view,
on the
yeah.
floor. And our parish priest was fantastic. He came and gave me the anointing the next day. The friars were unbelievable. They started immediately. EWTN, the night I was admitted, I talked to Doug Keck and Michael Warsaw, and they were just, they were going to be there, supportive. The network is there for you. And they were through the whole process. And the difficult part too is so I'm admitted, you're getting, once you get the bone marrow biopsy and they realize, yes, this is what you have, you have leukemia, this is the protocol, you get 2 extremely high doses of
Peter, are there degrees
leukemia.
of having leukemia? Or is
Yeah.
it
There are so many degrees and variations,
okay.
and my one was AML, acute myeloid leukemia, and I had an inversion 16, which is the 16th chromosome is inverted, and that's always typically a good. If you're going to have leukemia, that's not a
good
bad one to
indicator.
have, because usually it responds well to chemo.
Okay.
So we get the plan that we're going to be doing chemo, and the 2 chemos you get really bad side effects. You know, you lose your hair, you get really bad mouth sores. I could barely eat sometimes. I was not a big guy, but I lost about 30 pounds during that 1 month in the hospital. But a few days after I got, yes, you have leukemia, but then a few days later they came back and said, we've got really bad news. You have this mutation called an FLT3, which has really poor diagnosis. So
it was
you're
a
only,
new. It was a new discovery. Like they just kind
so
of
they call it a
discovered this
FLT3.
FLT3.
And so they said, you know, your only hope is a transplant, bone marrow transplant. And so we said, okay, well, I've got 5 older brothers. Maybe that'll be good. We have to go down. So you think, oh, it's good news. No, it's bad news. No, it's good news.
Right.
And through it all, your thoughts are on your family and your children. And my big thing was, I realized, I said, God loves them more than I do. So if I'm not going to be here, let it be for their salvation, because He's going to take care of them. And that's the consolation. So the Divine Mercy Prayer, Jesus, I trust in You, that it was like
Yep.
around the clock
it's
in your
nonstop.
mind. You know how it is,
Mm-hmm.
what you go through. He says, Jesus, I trust in You. So knowing that God's love for my family surpasses mine, it gives you a sense of peace. You still have the anxieties, and you're still going through a lot, and you're still having to deal with all the effects, but the support we got from friends, from family, from the friars. Every single day, one of the friars would come, or the priest or the brothers would come. They'd bring communion. You know, one of the first few days, Father Mitch was saying Mass in my room.
Yeah.
And that was just a tremendous blessing. Our parish priest, Father Jim Booth, was just unbelievable. Parish community, right away, people were bringing meals on a regular basis to sharing. Because every day she'd be hospital back, home, the kids, you know, and God bless Nathan, our 11-year-old, is basically taking care of a household.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, for the first 31
Yeah.
days he was there, Gary and I his brother and I had figured out that I would stay there all the time, and my parents came in to watch the children at home, and Gary would come on Wednesday nights and Saturday nights, and so I could go home and spend a little 2 nights with them and help them go to church on Sunday and all that kind of stuff, and we had family and friends who over those 31 days were able to be in our home so that I could be with Peter, because he really couldn't be left alone at all. I mean, and so even though he was in the hospital and the nurses were there, I mean, there's just still the
You need a patient advocate.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you need, because no, he can't do that. Yes, he can. No, I mean, you need someone there to represent him at all times,
Oh,
because
yeah.
he's sick.
Yeah.
yeah.
And he has, you know, toxins flowing through his body, and
Exactly.
he's not in his right
Why
mind.
don't we just pause at this point? This is an incredible story of faith in the midst of adversity, thanksgiving for life itself. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Welcome back. Well, today we're celebrating Thanksgiving, and happy Thanksgiving to you. What are you thankful for? Let us know. You can send us an email at jimandjoy@ewtn.com, and we would love for you to share with us the blessings that God has given to you through all of life's trials and sufferings.
one here.
We have one right now that came in. It said, "My parents always said it is God, faith, and family, in that order. For when God is first, all else follows. And he gets us through the twists and turns that life lays out before us. So I'm thankful for an awesome God, his miracles and his that are bountiful." And that's from Mary, and that is true. And here we are sharing with Peter and Sharon Gagnon, and they're telling us their great story, what God has done to them, through them, and for them.
You
It's
share-
all his story, right?
You're sharing about the beginning of treatment, really, a bone marrow transplant. Where did that take place? What goes on with that?
So the bone marrow transplant is what they told us is probably because of my FLT3 was going to be the only hope. So in doing our research, we looked up that we thought, we found MD Anderson place in hospital in Houston is one of the top in the world, really. So we said, why don't we go there and talk to them about the transplant? And a little process for that. And through it all, we're praying for God's guidance, you know. And with the theme of thankfulness, through it all, we are being thankful because every day people are providing for us. God is providing, and we had to do that. Thank you, God, for bringing these priests to us to receive the sacraments all the time. Thank you for helping me. You know, we'd have to say, you know, help me. Thank you, God, for letting me eat this one meal. I wasn't it was difficult to eat, but I got it down. So thank you for that. So, and you meet a lot of other patients, you know, during that time, and you see despair in them, and you see, and God gave us, while being at the hospital, opportunities to be with people, and it just the incredible nurses and doctors that UAB, the nurses they become like family for you when you're there. And they would come to us, and some of them would pray with us. Some would say, you know, there's a new girl, she just got diagnosed, she's down the hall. Would you want to come talking to her? You know, we would. And you'd see a little bit of maybe hope in their eyes after, because there's a shock to them and stuff. So anyway, so we decided to go to MD Anderson, which is an incredible place to line up for my bone marrow transplant, which the only thing with that is the recovery rate, you know, is really, it's about 10%.
Painful?
bone marrow transplant,
I mean, it
it's a
sounds
little
like
bit.
Okay.
So they remove all your
Yeah, I
bone
mean-
marrow
Yeah.
and they replace it with the donors. It is a long process, but also your body reacts to it negatively. And I had already had a lot of severe reactions to just regular blood transfusions, so you know about that. And then there's a higher mortality rate too for bone marrow transplant. So, but we get to MD Anderson. I'll let Sharon tell you about that a little bit. So,
Well, it was a week that we were there, and we initially went for him to have his initial tests for his transplant and all that stuff. And we met with the transplant team on the first day, and you know, and the doctor looks at him and he looks at his records and he looks at these two anomalies that he has, this FLT3 and this inversion 16. And, you know, I mean, science is just exploding right now, and things that you knew 2 days ago, you know so much more now. And he said, he goes, we're seeing something kind of interesting with patients who have these two anomalies. He goes, out of 5,000 people, he goes, 500 of those people will have an inversion 16. He goes, and out of those 500 people, he goes, 5 of those people will have a FLT3 as well. He goes, so out of those 5 little people that we're looking at, he goes, we're seeing some really amazing stuff, results with them just undergoing initial, I don't want to say the normal treatment for AML, but the traditional treatment for AML. He goes, I want you to go see our leukemia doctors here. Yeah. So we go home the first night, Monday, we're like, woohoo, we don't have to have a transplant. We're like, thank you, Jesus, you know, so excited. And then we meet with the leukemia doctors there, and they're like, okay, great, you know, yeah, we think this is what you need to do. We don't think you need to do a transplant right yet because of obviously the additional risks and whatnot. And he goes, we're trying to do this study. We want to get you on this study. So if we're going to do this, Peter needs to stay here. And I'm thinking, no, Peter can't stay here. We go together. Like we always go everywhere together. Yeah, you know. And so we go home that night, or back to the hotel on Tuesday. And I'm thinking, okay, Peter's going to stay here, and I'm going to fly home and pack up all 6 of our children and somewhat of our house, and we're going to move here, you know, for 6 to 8 months or whatever. And so we go back on Wednesday, and he goes, oh no, well actually we can. There's some, you know, issues with the study and whatever, so why don't you just go back to Birmingham? So Wednesday we go home and we're like, okay, well now we're both going home together. Then Thursday we go back to the hospital again, and you know, you're spending all day there doing different tests and meeting with different people and social workers.
It just takes over your life.
It is,
It just takes
I mean, it's
over your
huge.
life.
And then Thursday we go back home, and they're like, no, Peter needs to stay, and because it's been too long. He's now. By the time we got our MD Anderson appointment, he had been so long.
You need to start your protocol for
every 3 weeks.
Exactly.
For the chemo.
So he had that 1 month of consolidation, and then you're supposed to every 3 weeks go for these consolidation treatments, 3 to 4 of them. And so we were like, we've got to get him started or whatever. And so then it was my brother-in-law was going to come in because we couldn't leave Peter alone, but I was going to go home. It was just crazy. But the whole time, I mean, I remember Thursday night, we found the Catholic church nearby, and we just sat there and just exhaled, just walking in, and we just sat there and adored Jesus in the tabernacle, and just were like, you do what you need to do with us. But if you could give us a little roadmap right now, that would be really great, just for like tonight. Like, what are we supposed to do right now? Because that was all we could do. I mean, you can only do what you can do at that moment because everything changes the next day. But thankfully on Friday when we went back, they said, no, Peter can go home. He can do the protocol we designed in Birmingham. So thankfully my brother-in-law didn't have to fly in. He was able to come home. The children were able to see everybody. And but it was trying because when he would go in, his cancer, AML, is a little different than some other forms. I mean, all the cancers are so vastly different now. And his protocol that they decided to do for him, he would actually be admitted to the hospital for a week. And he would do his treatment those first few days, and then his counts would go down. He'd in essence have no immune system. We'd have to wait for that to build back up so he could be safe enough to go home. And then the preceding or the next week, we would spend the week in the clinic getting transfusions and whatnot. So
and then I would get an infection.
And then,
have to be readmitted
for that.
Sure.
And so that 3-week time frame really fast.
So between the 9 months of that chemo, I spent about 90 something days in the hospital between regular admissions and it was interesting that when you go through it and you see other people around you and how your thankfulness does. I was so thankful that we have a prayer community too. Literally, it was very, very humbling. But because of working at EWTN and the people, literally prayers from around the world. You know, Joan Lewis got a little note into the Pope. You know, Pope Benedict. You know, she sent me a note saying Pope Benedict's secretary said, you know, he's praying for your colleague. You know, it was like it's very, very humbling. But it changed me in a way to look at others more compassionately because. You know, you'd sit there, and there were some people. I remember once a poor guy at MD Anderson. There was an issue with his insurance, and he was angry, and he was yelling at people. And they're trying to be compassionate to him, saying, "No, you need to do this protocol." He's like, "My insurance won't do it," and he's swearing, he's angry. And I think in the past I might have gone, "Hey, take it easy, guy. These guys are trying to help you." But I could see he was in pain, and he didn't have God to hold on to.
Right.
He didn't know what to do, and he just was lashing out. So, so those times when I would just sit there and Sharon and I would just like, let's pray for the guy next to us, you know, because there's always someone worse than yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and to know that all these people are praying for me, I need to be praying for these other people who are going through this as well, or going through worse, or who may not have it as bad, but are suffering more.
Right.
You know, not
We had-
physically, but emotionally suffering more.
There was a patient in the hospital when he was there for his 31 days, and I befriended his wife. You know, we'd meet at the little water cooler, and you know, whenever we were out, and so I got to learn her story a little bit, and our story. You know, we shared our family lives and things like that, and I just remember she was a faithful person, and she even said, she goes, you know, we take this suffering because God has given us so much. We can't take the good and not accept the bad, you know, or the challenges that he brings our way. So she was like understanding of the compassion of God and things like that. But, you know, she just told me the story of her family and their children and things, and I just thought, we are so blessed. I mean, just the magnitude. I mean, we knew we were blessed to begin with. I mean, we understood that. We are so thankful for our children and our families that are here and the community that we have around here. But just to truly see that even there are people who have the faith who just still just don't recognize the beauty of every single blessing you have. I mean, every day you have. You know, you've got a fussy baby or whatever, you can still be thankful that you have this baby.
Exactly.
I mean, you know, and up in the middle of the night, which I'm frequently doing now, which is wonderful, but at the same time, I'm like, I am thankful that this baby is hungry. I'm thankful that this baby needs me right now, and that I can do something for this child. And
even going through with Emma, you know, when we went through the chemo stuff, they said, in the hospital, chances are you're not going to be able to have children. That
was
really
funny.
affected Sharon a lot when they told us that, because we were in the hospital and they told us that, and Sharon was like really got emotional from it, and I'm like,
the sweet
we have
doctor.
6, and if I get through leukemia, that'll, you know, I mean,
This is a good deal, Sharon.
Yeah,
it is. But
exactly.
it
We
was
haven't.
also
We are not
beautiful
wanting.
to see Sharon to be like she loves life, and she wanted to have more life there, and so. 7 years later, you know, more life.
More life,
little
definitely.
Emma comes
Which
out,
is
was
more of
beautiful.
a miracle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it really.
Because the sweet doctor who came
Yeah.
in and he was going through the litany of, you know,
It was kind of a little bit
things
of
that,
matter
you
of
know,
fact.
yeah, you know,
totally.
and he wasn't being disrespectful by any
No,
means. He
no,
was
he
just kind of like,
wasn't.
I'm
Yeah.
just telling you all this stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
And whenever Peter was in the hospital, I had these 4x6 or whatever pictures of all the children, and I'd tape them up across from his bed so he could see them, and then a picture of our family. And it was always it was like my little setup. I always put them up whenever he was there or whatever. And the sweet doctor was kind of standing behind them, and he goes, "Oh, and you won't be able to have children or whatever." And I went, "Could you go back?
Yeah.
You know, what do you mean we won't be able to have more children?" And he kind of like looked and he was like, don't you have a bunch? Aren't these all pictures of your children, you know, behind me? And
you really get a flock there.
yeah, exactly. And we were known as the
big
big
family.
family down the hall.
Yeah,
Like they were like,
exactly.
"Oh, you're here to see the big family down the
Of
hall."
their faces, that's what you were fighting to live for.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And in life, you're not only fighting to live for that life, but you want to live life to the fullest.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, and look what God has done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a miracle.
Yeah.
You know, and to go through it all, to come out this end of it. One of the things you said, it made you more compassionate. But how has it altered your faith with your eyes set to eternity, though, too? I mean, I mean, aren't you thankful that you've done this
Oh,
now?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, what would life
I would not have
like
not gone through
without
it.
cancer?
Yeah,
Right.
I would not have not gone through it.
That's an absurd thing to say.
Exactly.
I know.
Yeah.
In the eyes of the world, it is. It is. But because our prayer life as a family, we always had a good prayer life, I would say,
I think
but
we were
it-
just being easy on the children.
But it was, and we were kind of like, okay, the rosary's too much for them. Let's do a little bit here, Hail Mary here. And then when they started, it was like, no, we're going to pray the rosary every night for Dad. And so
Yep,
when I
we
came home
did.
from the hospital after 30 days, and I looked at and I was thankful I said, thank you for what you have done for me and for your mother during this time. And but we started praying the rosary every single night, the full rosary
So
with
we
a little
did.
2-year-old, and then the chaplet of Divine Mercy every day at 3. We're going to pray the chaplet. We got a prayer bell. We ring the bell in the morning, and it's prayer time. We would do a prayer.
we do it
read
as a
all the
family
saints.
now. We do it before he
Yeah,
leaves
we
for
have
work.
a great
and
devotion to Saint Peregrine, patron saint.
Yes.
There you go. That's right.
So we say the Saint Peregrine every day.
all
still.
the children know the prayer Bible.
Yeah, they know it.
Right.
But it did. It helped us to see eternity with the kids. Because I tell the kids, look, nobody has tomorrow. You hear every day somebody who has passed, devout, beautiful families who they get cancer and they don't survive.
Right.
Or atheists who do survive. You don't know why.
Right.
You don't know why, but you pray that it's for their salvation, right? And or people who have survived things and then die in a car accident or have a heart attack. You don't even know. You survived your heart attack. You survived. We don't know, but we told the kids nobody has tomorrow, so let's give today to God so that we can have forever with Him.
That's right.
So we don't have tomorrow, but we have forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've suffered some things, and the beautiful thing for me, I know going through cancer and surviving, is I get to live life with the knowledge in my soul that I believe, and I know I believe what I believe.
Right.
You know, it's one thing to have your faith. Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. But then you get to wrestle with
live
it
it.
and live it. And you
Yeah.
go, I believe this.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, and I'm going to face death. We're all going to face death.
Yeah.
Is it today? Is it tomorrow? I don't know.
Right.
But I'm going to love Jesus with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength.
Right.
And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And now I get to live. Thank you, Jesus. It's another day.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, I think it's been a big effect too. We homeschool all of our children, and we've done it ever since Nathan never has gone to school. I mean, they've all always been homeschooled, and going through the process. Nathan now, our oldest, is a senior, and he's about to go off to college and things like that. And before, I remember when we've talked about this many a time, like when we were seniors, it was, okay, well, where do we go to school so that we can get a job that pays the most money and that we can do all these kinds of things, and that we can succeed in the world and focus on the world and get a nice car and have the White House or the house with the white picket fence and all that kind of stuff. But when talking with Nathan and stuff, we want him to do what we truly feel, or he prayerfully feels God is calling him to. Now, obviously, we hope it's a continuation of your education, and that you kind of follow the normal path, and that's kind of where we're going, unless you feel strongly against that. But we want him to focus that you need to live your life every day the way you feel God is asking you. And I don't think, at least for me, that would have been as clear and I would have been able to articulate it as well if we had not undergone what we went through, because you do just sit there and you say, I'm so thankful for my husband. And like he said, if God chose to take him, then I knew that God would provide for our family. It wasn't something I wanted to dwell on or think on at all. But there were moments when you had to face that realization, and there was a sense of peace in that I knew God was going to provide for us and take care of us. And that didn't mean that we would live in a beautiful big house, or I didn't mean monetarily. I knew that just meant he would make sure that we were all taken care of spiritually, and that somehow we would all make it through, and that, like you said, you're living it. At that moment, you sit there and you go, oh yeah, it's not just some nice fun thing I say on Sundays or whenever. It's like, no, we are doing this 24/7. We trust, in every moment out of his mouth, it was, Jesus, I trust in you. We trust in God. We trust in God. There was never a moment of doubt or or I mean, there was we
Well,
were
there's,
scared.
You know, you go through
but
things, and it's an act of the will to do that.
Yeah,
That's right.
You know,
Yeah,
you're doing
and
this,
we
you're
are
saying, I'm
continually
choosing
doing
to
it.
Right.
trust in you, God. I'm choosing to believe in
And then
you.
the
It's not
grace
just a will.
meets the choice of your
Exactly.
will,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it's a great blessing. And the illusion gets exposed that you're in control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you articulated that so well, Sharon, even with your children. We're not in control of them. Who has God called each and every one of them to be?
Right.
God's
Exactly.
plan for their life.
Yeah.
And you let go of that, I'm in control of nothing.
Yep.
And you can be free in that because God's in charge and you're
Yes,
not.
exactly.
And then you live in that total freedom and joy.
So many great lessons being learned here and hearts full of thanksgiving. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more from the Gagnons and their children, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Well, you're an important part of our EWTN family. And you know, you can join us live on At Home and be a member of our studio audience. All you need to do is contact us at the EWTN Pilgrimage Department. Just email us, pilgrimages@ewtn.com. Give us a jingle at 205-271-2966, and they will be so happy to have you come to Irondale, Alabama, and be a part of our audience. You can meet us. You can meet the Gagnon family.
If they
They're so
came
beautiful.
today, though, there were no seats because the Gagnons took it all up in place. So
They
you
were
come
so
another
beautiful.
time. We're going to go to Joan Lewis in Rome and see what she has for us today. Joan?
Well, greetings from Rome and happy Thanksgiving to all of you at home. And I certainly hope you're having a beautiful Thanksgiving day, turkey dinner, and perhaps a little football, as tradition seems to warrant on this beautiful American holiday. But before I go any further, can I just give a wonderful shout out to two good friends, Peter and Sharon, of course, on your program today, on the birth of their 7th child, a girl. I hope you have a beautiful day, folks. Now, many people have asked me, how do you celebrate Thanksgiving when you live overseas? Well, that's what I want to tell you about today. It is a tradition here. We do have turkey they do sell turkey in Italy. But the only difference between maybe an American turkey dinner and dinner here is the fact that often here it starts with pasta. So you might say, on Thanksgiving Day, we really have a lot on our plate. Now, in Rome, the Santa Susanna American Catholic community starts the day with Mass, and during Mass, the presidential proclamation is read by either the U.S. ambassador to the Holy See or the U.S. ambassador to Italy. And then also the North American College, our seminary in Rome, has a beautiful Mass at noon on Thanksgiving Day. And then afterwards, a wonderful turkey dinner with the faculty, the staff, the students, and invited guests. And at the end, the seminarians parade around with homemade pumpkin pies. And also, the presidential proclamation is read at that event. Now, interestingly enough, not many Americans know about the presidential proclamation. George Washington, the first president of the U.S. under the Constitution of 1787, made this proclamation, his first, on October 3rd, 1789 in New York. Then fast forward to 1863, and President Abraham Lincoln set the date in his Thanksgiving proclamation, and he wrote, "I do therefore invite my fellow citizens in every part of the United States, and also those who are at sea and those who are sojourning in foreign lands, to set apart and observe the last Thursday of November next as a day of thanksgiving and praise to our beneficent Father who dwelleth in heaven." So beautiful words. That's the holiday. Back to you at home. And again, happy Thanksgiving. God bless America. God bless all of you.
Joan, thank you so much. Always great to hear from Joan there in Rome. We have these beautiful Gagnon children here. And why don't you just go around, according to age, and just say your name.
All right, so I'm Nathan. I'm Zachary.
I'm Grace.
Oh, that's
Matthew. William.
Luke.
Luke
And
Emma.
and Michelle. Well, it's great to have you all here. I know you're so proud of your mom and of your Dad, and they love you so very, very much. What were your thoughts during the show? You know, speaking about your family, speaking about your dad's illness and coming through that time and strong now, and yet, you know, anything can happen to any of us at any time. Just your thoughts, what this journey has been like for you. Any one of you? Any thoughts about this?
Well, just during the show, like when Mom and Dad were going through the story, just like every now and then they'd say something, I'd go, oh, I remember when that happened, and like you could relate to certain times, like certain times when Dad would get like, he'd get a cold after his cancer, he'd get a cold and he'd automatically have to go to the hospital, like just remembering times like that. And
And praying for Dad. Others of you thoughts or reflections?
It was weird kind of hearing like the story. Just, I mean, I've heard it so many times. And it did impact me a lot when he was gone because I didn't understand what was happening. And that was a hard time for me, but now, I mean, it's just kind of like a bad memory back there. We don't think about that a ton.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just a happy every day that when he comes home from work and stuff.
Wonderful. Good.
That's
That's
right.
a great reflection. But it was good to hear it again, wasn't it?
It
In a
was.
way. It's hard to hear it, but saying, gosh, we live that. And you know, what's next in our lives, but we face that and we can go on. Anybody else? Nathan, you're the oldest one, right? And so you were really a big part of this, and a lot kind of fell to you in a lot of ways. What were your thoughts as your parents shared, and what are some of your reflections or thoughts?
so as they shared, I thought back to remembering when Dad had cancer, and the big thing is I don't remember that much of it actually, and I think that might have been because I was so busy trying to take care of them or just doing it. So I remember Dad being in the hospital and being vague, like Dad's there, but we're praying to God so he's gonna be fine. He's just there for a little while, and then he'll come home and everything will be all right. And so I mean, that's really all I remember from that point. Just we prayed a lot, and we all knew God was gonna make him better. So.
Well, thank you so much. This family is a precious family. So glad you could be with us and the EWTN family for Thanksgiving. In every circumstance, in every situation, give thanks to the Lord. This is the will of God for you in Christ Jesus. May this be the best Thanksgiving of your life. Bye now.